Hello, everyone. This is Howard Fox, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, where we celebrate individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Emanuel Rose is a returning guest on the Outdoor Adventure Series today. Emanuel is an outdoor enthusiast, a fellow podcaster, and an award-winning author. He's joining us today to discuss his 2023 book, The 7 Principles of the Magic Rock, how solitude in nature anchors your mental health, improves your leadership skills, and unleashes your creativity. Emanuel, this is not our first rodeo, so good morning. It's good to see you. I felt like we saw each other last week, but you're here again, and I just thank you for taking time out of what I know is a busy day for you.
Absolutely, Howard. I appreciate being invited and to have this conversation with you, because it is an important and meaningful conversation, not just to people listening, but also to myself.
Excellent. Before we jump in about the book and what was your why around needing to write this book or wanting to write the book, catch us up. I mean, we talk rather frequently, but we don't often delve into some of the inner workings of what we've been up to. I do recall seeing recently on LinkedIn that you just won an award. So share a little bit about what that is all about.
Yeah, it was nice to get a little recognition for one of the books in my children's book series, which was a book about the grouse, the secret of the grouse, and that is a similar topic to what this is in terms of teaching children that stillness is a valuable thing, and it's kind of the precursor to a mindfulness practice as they get a little bit older, and so I've got the secret of the grouse, which won the award, and then there's the Magic Rock, which is the children's book version. There's 2 books that are about reflecting on being out in nature, being still, getting inspiration, and then the stories are about taking action from that inspiration.
Excellent. Well, again, congratulations. As a fellow podcaster, I can say as an author, but not nearly as prolific as you are. But it's nice to be one that you have that creativity and you can turn that into a very successful series of books, but also to be acknowledged in the community for it, because it takes effort and energy, and a lot of people they think about it, they don't do it. You're actually doing it, and it's nice to get that acknowledgement. So fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I would love just a little background. I mean, you and I have been together twice for podcasts for the Wanaha Henry series, and I'm curious where this interest in mental health and well-being and this connection to nature, spending time in nature, how did that start to percolate in your life and why it's so necessary?
Well, it's a winding story, but the short version is I grew up in a house of nature enthusiasts, and so from a very early age, literally I was tied to a tree when I was less than 1 years old, right next to the creek, while my mom was reading and my dad was fly fishing on a camping trip, right? So in those days, that was how they did they did childcare, which is fine. I have no issues with that. So I grew up in nature in some form or another, and really enjoyed fly fishing and got the most kind of juice and recharge from backpacking and fly fishing. As my career developed, I've always prioritized and spent time with outdoor trips of one form or another. I was a raft guide and always fly fishing, and big backpacking trips, Tahoe, Yosemite, and been to New Zealand. I've been to Belize. I've done all the things that everybody talks about, and so when I was doing the research for my first marketing book about marketing in Generation Z, I came across what now is very obvious that not only are these kids the first digital generation, but there's a lot of negative effects of the exposure to screens, to social media, to being online constantly. And so when I dug into the psychology of that, then I'm like, well, I can't just write a book about how to market to these people. I've got to do some good work also. I've got to. It's a group of people that need help understanding what it is to be human. And so I have a couple books in the works that are teenager friendly versions of what we're going to talk about today. But then I realized also it's like, wow, I've got the antidote when doing the research on what people need with this, A, disconnecting from technology, and then B, spending time by themselves, which as a group, as a culture, we're not very good at. And then C, being outside, and then having these secret places where you sit and meditate or pray or sing, chant, whatever your flavor of solitude is, to get into values clarification and setting paths and dissecting the challenges of life. And those only happen from being by yourself. And nature has been historically for humans a way to get fed and gain some clarity on a quicker scale.
Okay. I recall from our earlier interviews that you walk away from work and you disconnect. I hope I'm correct. Is it monthly or every couple months? How there is a frequency to it.
Yeah, I definitely on a monthly scale. My goal is to be disconnected every day, and then one day a week, and then 1 week a month, and that is especially in terms of the work that I'm doing now around marketing and AI and how intensive that is around the computer and the screens is a major priority to stay grounded in the person that I am versus being sucked into the chaos that is the internet.
Okay, very good. So let's talk about the book, the Seven Principles of the Magic Rock. How did you begin to organize this book, and what are these seven principles? Did they come out at once? Were they a slow burn? Like, okay, I need to add this, then I need to add the next thing and the next thing. What are the principles and how did they come about?
Well, the first thing is that the magic rock is my interpretation of what my papu, my grandfather, would do when we would go fishing on the Merced River near Yosemite. That there was this particular run that we would be on, and in the middle of the run was a big rock, and he would sit there every time we fished it. He would go and purposely sit on that rock, and he smoked Marlboro Reds, and he would sit and he'd smoke 5 or 6 cigarettes. And while we're still doing the fishing, and then he'd get done and catch up with us, and it always stuck in my head. And then the work that I did with Tom Brown, who was they call him the tracker, and he was trained in the Apache tradition, Lipan Apache tradition, and that is that you have a secret spot and you go and visit it every day by yourself. And so those two things combined in my mind in terms of my practice, but then also that's where the magic rock came from, is the combination of those two teachers. And then I'd sat and I thought about what is it that I actually do? What's the structure of this? And number one is I always schedule it. Like my calendar is scheduled for the next year of my fishing trips, family trips, hunting trips, and then of course the important family social engagements. But I have my calendar set, and then I block out my calendar, and then I talk to my team. My team knows I'm going to be gone, and then I'm doing something that is important to me, and I've carved out the time. So that's the first overarching thing. And not everybody works like that, but it's important even to be 90 days out booked so that you can protect that time. Otherwise, you're always being drawn in by the tyranny of the urgent.
Mm.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just curious then, is scheduling this time and then your reference to Tom Brown and the secret spot, can your secret spot be, is it do you have multiple? Is there one like outside the door, or you get in the car, or you walk to the local park and just sit and relax and meditate, just disconnect and think? Or is there another, or is there the secret spot, which is somewhere that you just every month you're going to be there?
Yeah, it's there's I've got secret spots all over the place, right? And
Okay.
like you said, I mean, like we lived in Southern Oregon, there was a park bench next to a creek, and I would walk the dog there. The dog would sit down, and I would just hang out. Nobody knows what I'm doing, but I'm just sitting there on the park bench. I got my backyard at our house. I've got a nice rock there that looks over a creek, and I can take 25 minutes in between meetings and go and sit there and watch the ducks and see the quail coming in and out. So, yeah, it is, it's a more of a mentality or a goal of having a spot where you can be by yourself and take a break versus a place.
Okay. Very good. So please continue as to go through the principles.
Yeah. So you got your scheduling your time, which is critical, and then letting people in your life know what you're doing, where you're going to be doing it generally, and then gearing up, provisioning up, being able to support yourself. The preference would be as wild as possible, but sometimes you're going to be in a campground, which makes it easier. From there, you can go for a hike and get away from other people. But the idea is that it's the solitude and the nature that really is the crux. And so you're setting up that situation with the supplies that you need to do that easily. And then being willing to turn off your phone and shut your computer and deal with the monkey brain. And so that's the other part of it, is what is the practice that you're going to do while you're sitting there not entertained, not getting dopamine and disconnected. And so for sometimes it's poetry, sometimes it's art, sometimes you're learning to play a song or you're just singing. Sometimes it's meditation or prayer, and sometimes a combination of those things. In the more extreme times, I've gone in and I spent 3 days in the same sit spot right next to a creek, no food, just a water filter, and 3 days by myself. Those times are magical as much as they are challenging, but usually it's just setting up a camp and having time to cook a nice meal, an outdoor meal, sit by the fire, spend some time by the creek, maybe going for a hike, but always spending some time sitting, not doing anything, but parsing through where I am in my life and where I want to be in my life and what I think I should be accomplishing and how I'm going to accomplish that.
Okay. What kind of support do you need? I mean, obviously you've a lovely wife, and um, I don't think you've ever shared the extended family beyond that, but I imagine you have to have support in some way to really be able to go off and accomplish this desire to just spend this alone time.
Yeah, and I think if for people who are just starting it, it's an hour or 2 hours at a time at the park, like you're describing, or where we live, we can drive out to the BLM, set up a chair, and be by ourselves, and for 2 hours, it's not a big deal. And of course, I've gotten some feedback from from some women who said they don't feel comfortable being by themselves in nature or in a campground, or they don't feel safe. And so then you've got to reset and say, well, maybe I'm going to go with a friend or a partner, but I'm going to set aside 4 hours or the 2 hours longer than my normal comfort zone is. I'm going to set aside that much time to be out by myself, knowing that there's somebody who's watching. And that's a traditional practice that when people are on vision quests or spiritual quests in Native American traditions, typically there was a watcher to make sure that to monitor essentially. So that's not uncommon.
Excellent. I was thinking as you were kind of describing the this transition and the support, there are a number of national wildlife preserves nearby, and I love going out there. And it's one of the small little trails, and there's some benches along the bigger trails,
Yeah.
and I love just to sit there and observe. Now, sometimes the folks I'm with want to talk, and I just like,
Right. Yeah.
and it's like, but it's so it is nice, and I don't know, maybe I'm unattached, and I'm used to solitude in certain ways, but I love the solitude of just being by myself in nature, sitting and listening, and just whether it's the breeze, the smell. I love birding, watching
Yes.
birds.
Yep.
Uh, Sometimes that love takes over with having my camera and my long lens with me. But
Sure.
as another friend likes to say, it's called slow birding.
Yeah.
But
Love
I
it.
love that, being able to do that. How do you mentioned briefly about writing poetry, working on a song, a poet write poetry. Is that the way you kind of stay focused? Or are you speaking to another way of staying focused when you're out there contemplating and uh, by yourself?
Yeah. So for me, I have a really kind of structured morning practice. I get up very early and do my meditation immediately to capture the good theta brainwaves, and then after that, then I kind of have my milieu. Uh, Sometimes in the course of a day, I'll just sit and do nothing. I will write poetry. I'll play my guitar. I'll pick something that I'm observing. It could be um, the way that the moon is rising over the lake. I'll take that picture and then work on poetry from that. So for me, there's not really a right or wrong way to structure your time. I think the most important part is being by yourself,
Mhm.
and that's the start of it. Is being able to say, "This is my time, my alone time," and so yeah, I don't have young children or those kind of commitments, so that's much easier for me. But um, we all have the ability to carve out a little bit of time each day and each week to um, do something that is more human than just trying to produce uh, digital letters on the keyboard.
Sure. I can imagine having a a little notebook with me, whether I'm writing words. And what resonates for me is I've always been a photographer as long as I can remember. And it's funny, my camera is probably, when I used to do wedding photography, is probably as old as I am. Okay.
Nice.
But I would love to have like a book where I could just draw pictures. And I think I'd always wanted to learn how to draw,
Yeah.
and just to be able to doodle on a note page. And it's not going to be a work of art. I'm not going to sell it, but it reminds me of this is what I saw,
Yeah.
and
That's
be
cool.
able to do that. I think I need to leverage technology or some in-person learning to learn how to draw a little bit.
I love it. I would encourage you to do that and to remember that art is for the purpose of creation, not for the purpose of commerce.
Right. Very good. You mentioned about in the book going deeper, and whether it's the hiking, the camping, the kayaking, And what is there a technique or secret to just getting deeper, as you say?
Well, one thing is to get a comfortable place to sit and then taking off your shoes and socks and actually being connected to dirt.
Ah, okay.
And so that's a our culture has disconnected us almost entirely from nature, right? We have the ability to set the thermometer at 68.5 because that's where we're comfortable, and we get our latte at 119 degrees because that's my favorite way to get it, and on and on and on, right? Um, but we have to just reconnect in certain ways. So sound is good. That's one way that, and that's I think what I love so much about fly fishing is I'm right there in the river, the sound of the river,
Hmm.
feel water. Often there's other animals, there's the birds, right? So the entire milieu changes, and um, but these practices, right? The simple part of grounding your feet into the ground
Hmm.
will change the way that you are in your body. And then getting a breathing exercise or a prayer routine that you're able to do once you're kind of set up and dug in.
Okay. Years ago, I had a girlfriend, and may her memory be a blessing. She's passed away, but she was a coach like I am as well. So when I'm not podcasting, my day job is I'm a professional coach.
Nice.
And before her coaching sessions with her client, she used to ask permission of them if she could play her flute. And she was an accomplished flutist, and she played in a
Yep.
band in Santa Barbara, but she also played the native flute. And there's just something about the native flute that I
Yeah.
just find it just does something to me. I'm thinking drawing native flute.
I love it.
I love it.
Yes.
I may have everything I need. I may have to follow you, and I'll be on a tree next to a tree about 100 yards away.
That
But
sounds good.
you'll be my support.
You'll be up when you are up visiting this area in March, we'll go and do that. I love it.
I love that. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, Meditation, is that did that come to you naturally? Is it something you have to just to kind of experience and get better at? Because I think that kind of encapsulates a lot of these principles is stop, breathe, and just be in there in the moment. So how did meditation take hold for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a challenge to over the years. I started out doing Tai Chi, right? So dynamic movement
Mm.
could engage the brain and also learn to breathe. And then over time, then I built a longer meditation practice. So some days could be 2 hours in a sitting. But it's like any practice or any muscle. You're building the capacity to do that over time. And the beautiful thing is that now there's a lot of apps that you can use to help
Hmm.
you learn to meditate. And I would say uh, the the value of it is that it helps to get the mind out of the equation at least
Hmm.
briefly, and allows other inspiration to seep in um, and draw uh, a person into different types of action. So
Okay.
it's worth the investment
Okay.
ultimately. I have found.
Okay. Very good. Well, I love the fact that there are apps, and I think I might even have one on my smartphone, and so I'll have to incorporate that when I'm go out into the desert. And one other uh, idea that was floating in my head. In fact, it floated in my head last year, and I didn't do anything about it. But I'm going to take care of it this year. Is I want to go to Death Valley
Nice.
and up above Furnace Creek, which is a campground. It's where the visitor center is. There's a I want to say it's the like the government campground. It's something like that. But it's almost fully um, well, there's no connections. There is a water closet. There's some running water and sinks, but you just plop your tent there or car camp. But I
Nice.
have this idea of just putting up my awning, have my chair, and just sit there all day. That's all I
Yeah.
want to do. I want to see the sunrise. I want my cup of coffee. I want to watch the sun go across the sky, listen for nature, see the sunset, have a good night's sleep, and I'm good. I just
Good.
want to say I've done that. I mean, I've slept out in Death Valley once before, but that campground sounds like a great place to do it. This book, The Seven Principles of the Magic Rock, who was your audience that you had in mind when you were writing this book?
I was, I was, I was picturing the parents of the Gen Zs
Okay.
and saying if we're gonna, in my mind, I'm like, if we're gonna teach these kids how to do stuff differently, then we need to affect the parents, and the
Mm-hmm.
parents can kind of drag those kids into these activities. And so, and that's what I do. That's what I do every Memorial Day now is when I have the grandkids out and we get them, and they're still young. They're only
Mm-hmm.
4 and 6 this year, but we go camping for the weekend. The parents come. We're doing the thing and working on enculturating them into um, into spending time outside, being comfortable and having fun and all those things. And then eventually we'll get them going to summer camp. And after that, then it's their choice.
Excellent. Excellent. I love it. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting about the book. It completely resonated for me as I'm exploring bringing on more voices to talk about the importance of nature and mental health, and especially working with our destination marketing organizations to learn about these destinations. There's state parks, county parks everywhere, national parks.
Yeah,
There's the park in the middle of town. I know Bend has right in the middle of town, which is the Chutes River.
absolutely. Yeah,
It's going right through town. And here in Las Vegas in the Valley, forget the Strip, but there's a lot of great places just to hang out with nature. And I
that
think it,
spot, the springs, that springs little spot that you have. I've used that a number of times when I was in Vegas for longer than I wanted to be, and go and hang out and sit by the creek at
yeah.
the Las Vegas Springs, whatever that community area is.
Well, we've got the Springs Preserve.
Yeah,
I've got the Desert National Wildlife Refuge right up the street. I
nice.
love, by the way, there's no there's some benches by the water, the pond, but there's the spring that's coming down, the water coming down from the mountain, and I love going there and just listening to the water.
Yeah,
And it's just something about that, and it's very special. And uh, so I need to make a commitment for 2025 to myself. One, to come up and spend some quality time with you, which will hopefully happen in the near future, but also to
absolutely.
spend more time out in nature. And I think it is such an important topic, and I'm finding once you start to talk about a topic, it's like social media. All of a sudden, wait, I'm just having this conversation. It's almost like my cell phone was listening to me, and I open up Facebook, and well, there it is.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
but I'm hearing more and more about the importance of mental health and nature, and so I think there's a great way to incorporate that in the conversation. So, thank you for adding your voice to what's kind of been percolating in my head, and I think it's a wonderful book, and I think I definitely would encourage anybody, one, to get out to nature, but to start to incorporate these principles that you have presented.
No, that's amazing. Howard, I appreciate having the conversation. And if it only worked to get you outside a couple of times this year, then it would be a success.
All right, I love that. I love that. Emmanuel, if listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where's the best place for them to go?
EmanuelRose.com is got all the information there, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. And you can just do a Google search for Emanuel Rose. I'll be number one.
It's good to be number one. It's good to be. All right. I mean, I know. Thanks so much again, and I know we're going to be chatting later on in the week, but This was very timely, and I truly am grateful that you were able to share this time with our audience and actually share some of the background and the reasoning and the gift of this book, The 7 Principles of the Magic Rock. So thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Howard. See you soon.
All right. Stay on the line. We're going to do a real quick close, and you and I can have a final chat. All right, folks, we have just been chatting with Emanuel Rose, my good friend, fellow podcaster. He's book author, an award-winning book author, and wrote this phenomenal little book back in 2023, The 7 Principles of the Magic Rock, How Solitude in Nature Anchors Your Mental Health, Improves Your Leadership Skills, and unleashes your creativity. So definitely you want to go out and check out the book. We'll have links back to Emanuel's website, emanuelrose.com, where you can find the book. And you can also listen to his podcast. And as well, we'll provide a link back to his LinkedIn profile. As for this episode, you'll be able to find us on our website, outdooradventureseries.com. We are also on Facebook and LinkedIn on our Outdoor Adventure Series pages. The video of this episode will be up on YouTube. And of course, you can listen to this episode wherever you listen to your podcast from. Until next time, go out there, have a phenomenal day, take care of yourselves, your family, get out to nature, begin practicing, embracing these principles, even if start off with just one, then another, but really there is a connection between our mental health and wellness and nature, and it's definitely worthy of a goal for this year, 2025 and beyond. Okay, folks, we'll see you on a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care now.